What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to be reviewing Port Adelaide's round 5 loss with Brisbane. It was a very disappointing night at the Gabba, going down by 37 points in a big game of football that was one we had high expectations for and expected a better performance, but unfortunately things didn't go our way, and we put in a performance that wasn't quite to the standard that we expected. So we'll go through the game and have a look and see exactly what went wrong and why Brisbane got the job done. Well, it started from the outset, didn't it? We had multiple shots on goal early on, had a chance to stamp our authority on the match, and overall we didn't take our opportunities early, and every time we had a chance to kick a goal or put some scoreboard pressure on, simply didn't take that chance, and Brisbane went down the other end and kicked a couple of snags. And finally we did get a chance at the end of the first quarter with Robbie Gray kicking a very nice set shot goal, but from then on it just went downhill very quickly. Our effort in the second quarter was not to the standard of a top of the table side, and it didn't represent what we had been about for the past month beforehand, with the 4 wins in a row, and it was just our lack of energy around the contest. We had a bit of a nervousness about us, and our intensity and effort, just either whether it was at the contest, in the air, or just around the ground, we just weren't up to the standard that we expected. And Brisbane, to their credit, brought that energy, they brought that pressure, and they just hunted. They hunted all night long, and especially our back six, they were just under the pump, especially coming inside 50. With delivery like that, you're not going to stop that too often, and it's just unfortunate because the way we were playing before, we expected to come in, put up a fight. We've got some good form at the Gabba. It's a lot of ground we seem to like, but Brisbane's just seem to be a bogey side at the moment for us. We just can't seem to beat them. I think it's just their youngness, their energy, and playing up at the Gabba. The way they play again, that we match up. I don't know, we just match up poorly against Brisbane. Whether it's in defence, we've got Cleary on Hipwood. Every time those two play against each other, Cleary just gets a bath. He gets cleaned up, and it's starting to get a worrying trend that Cleary has started to drop in his form a little bit. And we're just too small down back when we play against Brisbane. They've got Hipwood, they've got McStay down there, then they've got the big O that will move through, and our 195 centimetre defenders are just not going to cut it. Mackenzie, Jonas and Cleary are just not tall enough to handle that good delivery inside 50, and that height factor that when it does go into a contested area, the aerialists for Brisbane are just going to absolutely dominate 9 times out of 10, and that's exactly what happened. That second quarter, Hipwood set the tone, and then we just, from then on in, just fell apart, and every opportunity we did get, we seemed to not take it, whether it was a set shot on goal or a good passage of play, and then it somehow fall apart going halfway down, through the areas that we needed to improve in. Every time we went through, say, the midfield, we just lacked effort. Besides the likes of Boak and Butters, Houston, I don't think anyone can say they were exactly happy with their performance. I wouldn't even say they'd be happy with the performance, obviously, with the team perspective, but I think, overall, it's just, we just didn't handle the heat. We were exposed all over the ground in all areas and all facets, and that's what happens when you set the tone, when you start the game like that. You miss some early shots. We were looking good. We were moving the ball quite well. We were keeping up with Brisbane. But we just didn't handle anything they threw at us, and we crumbled. And it was a hint of that olden type of Port Adelaide that we're used to in the last couple of years, where as soon as the pressure did come, we just fell away. We didn't want to handle that, and we went into our shell a little bit. And with a game like it is at the Gabba, it's a little bit dewy. You're going to have to work extremely hard to make sure your skills are up to standard, and we just didn't get enough of the ball. Every time we did, Brisbane applied so much pressure, and they showcased why they're such a dominant team, and almost could say they're flag favourites now at this stage. But with a performance like that, you can't exactly say, this is it. This is Port Adelaide pretenders. I think Every team has a kink in the road. It's one of those things we're just going to have to cop on the chin and take it up next week with GWS, because it's not worrying, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. If that kind of pressure comes out again next week and we can't handle that, then you're going to start to question it a bit more. And I thought we were showing some promising signs. We built a good base. That 4-0 start is a good base. Now we can, we were ready for anything like this to happen, and now we can reset, refocus, take the good with the bad, move on into next week. I mean, that's something we're just going to have to deal with. Especially, it is tough. Maybe the hub situation's sort of catching up to us a little bit. The Gabba's sort of not the greatest of grounds that we like to play at. It doesn't really suit our style like Metricon does. So maybe next week it'll be a little bit better. One thing I did notice is that when we did throw Justin Westhoff down back, he was that tall option that went up and created a contest down back, which enabled us to move the ball out of our defensive 50, and we seemed to play a lot better. We didn't take our opportunities, as I said, as I keep saying, because that was the number one thing I went into the game thinking. If we take our opportunities and give our forwards some decent service, then it's going to be a good game of football. And 6 goals, 12 doesn't really showcase any kind of decent performance. But when we did move the ball in that third quarter, it seemed to be quite fluent. Coming out of defence, we were running, we were carrying the ball. It seemed like we had a bit of confidence with it. As we went inside 50. A credit to the Brisbane defenders as well. Harris Andrews, amazing on Charlie Dixon. He was sensational. And the likes of Birchall, Robinson, they just moved the ball well out of defence, and they cleaned up any mess that was sort of created by us, and took full advantage of that. And there's not a lot to say about how we played, because it was sort of the old performances that we're sort of used to. But I think overall, just that Westhoff factor is interesting. So maybe instead of throwing him to the ruck and sacrificing his game, we let him go a little bit more. Lycett, I think Lycett's performances of late haven't been up to the standard I would have particularly liked. That number one ruckman spot, maybe we bring in a second ruckman and try something different, because we didn't seem to try anything different or structurally change anything to adapt to Brisbane's momentum. And the only thing we did do was Westhoff going back. And if that's our only plan B, then that's going to get exposed as well. And then we're just going to get basically showcased like a projector to everyone of how easy it is to play against us. So we can believe in everything that we do, but we've got to make sure that we have the ability to change it up and not be so predictable sometimes, because that's how winning sides are able to continue winning, is that they'll have that predictability about them and they'll execute so well. But sometimes they'll throw a few spanner in the works and it'll pay off. And that's what keeps people guessing and why teams are separated from good and bad and aren't quite to the standard. Some of the performances from the players itself, as I said, Butters, Boak, Houston, were pretty decent overall. But I was a little disappointed in a few. I think Todd Marshall was a little bit quiet for my liking. Did get a couple of hits. And it does suck that our 3 tall forwards in Westhoff, Marshall and Dixon were kept sort of quiet, because it has worked so well this year, and that structurally makes us better having those 3 tools. But that was a little disappointing. I wasn't particularly happy with the likes of Rockcliffe or Wines. I think something's got to give there, and we lacked. I think we're missing Dersma's paced a little bit. I think he gave us a bit of creativity around the footy and gave us a bit of an X factor when coming out of a contested area. And Wines and Rockcliffe, while I think Wines is probably a little bit better than Rockcliffe at the moment, I think Rocky's, I don't know. I think it's just not working with him at the moment, in my opinion. But that same goes with Riley Bonner. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets dropped next week for Burton, because his performance last night wasn't. And I think he's just been carried a little bit with how well the team's going, because if we focused on his performances, haven't been too flash, when he does get the footy, he does use it pretty well, besides against the Lions. And I think Burton should come in for him next week. But, you know, after a performance like that, there's no pointing fingers. It's an overall team performance, and just got to take it on the chin. Otherwise, it's just not going to be... You know, you can't dwell on too many losses because it's such a short season. You're just going to move on. Well, Port fans, that wraps up my round 5 review of Port Adelaide versus Brisbane. Let me know in the comments below what you were thinking of the game and who were some of the standout players. I look forward to playing the Giants next week. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content coming your way across this very, very different season. My name is Anthony, and as always, ThePear.